Alright guys, today we are learning about a concept called the production possibilities curve. Now this is a graph, so you got an x-axis and a y-axis, and here's the rest of it. Looks a little something like that. Just this outward concave curve, right, going down like that. And what this is showing is the possibilities of what you were able to produce. Now, we can put anything here if we want to on the x and y axes. We're going to pick a couple of products. One of the classic dichotomies for this is called guns or butter. And don't think of this as being literal guns or butter, though I guess you could. The guns or butter in this case is going to be military goods, that'd be the guns, or consumer goods, which would be the butter. Alright? Now, as a society, you can produce one or the other with your resources, right? Remember, your resources are land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. So, given all that land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, we can produce various things. We can produce military goods, for example, or we can produce consumer goods that consumers would buy. Okay, so this is a classic dichotomy, but really you could use anything. You could use notebooks and cars if you wanted to. Oranges and kittens, I don't know. Right, all sorts of different things. Goods and services that get produced. So over here on the y-axis, we're going to call this one guns. That'd be the military goods. And then down here on the x-axis, we'll call this one butter. Again, military or consumer goods. Now the curve itself, alright, so this line itself represents what it is possible for us to produce given the resources that we have. Now let's say that we are producing right here at this point. That is our actual point of production. What we're saying then is that we are producing that much guns and we're producing this much butter. Okay, so that many military goods and that much consumer goods. Let me see if I can improve my dots a little bit here. Dash, dash, slight improvement maybe. Okay, so that is our actual point of production. Now, anytime you are on the line, if your point of production is somewhere on the line, that means that we're producing to maximum efficiency. We're using all of our resources as best as we can. Alright? So we're using all of our land, all of our natural resources, all of our labor, all of our capital, right? Factories, human-made resources, all of our entrepreneurship as best as we can. Now, because of that, what this means is that any time that we have a point of production that is somewhere inside the line, let's say our actual point of production is right there. Okay, now what this means is that we are underproducing. We are not producing as best as we could or as much as we could. The land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, the resources are still there, we're just not making use of them. So we could be producing on the line, but we're just not. For example, if we are in a recession, then we'd be producing somewhere inside the line, like right now. Okay, so anywhere inside the line, that is being inefficient, right? Inefficient or underproducing. Anytime you are inside the line. If we are outside the line, a point of production out there is impossible. The line itself represents the limits on what it is possible for us to produce given the resources we have. That necessarily means that anything that is outside the line is currently impossible. There would be dragons there. Okay, we can't do it. It's not possible for us to do. Okay, so if we're on the line, it's possible and a maximum efficiency. If it's inside the line, it's possible, but we're being inefficient or underproducing. And anywhere outside the line is currently impossible. Okay, now let's say that our point of production is right here, right? So that much butter and that many guns. Let's say that a war breaks out. Well, what do we need? We need more military goods than what we had before. We're going to start producing more tanks and fighter jets and stuff like that. So that means that our point of production will go from where it was down there to a new point of production. Let's say that it's up there. Okay. Now, what happens is we produce fewer consumer goods, so the amount of consumer goods we produce goes down, while the number of military goods that we produce goes up. Okay? So what happened down here with these consumer goods? Well, this was opportunity cost, wasn't it? In order to produce more military goods, we had to give up consumer goods, right? Because once you use your resources, the workers and the steel and everything else, in order to produce the military stuff, the tanks and the fighter jets and the battleships and whatever, that means we cannot now use that exact same material to build, say, cars and washing machines and whatnot. All right, so the consumer goods were the opportunity cost for producing the military goods. They were the things we would have made with our resources that we now are unable to do so because we put it in the military goods. So our production possibilities curve is illustrating scarcity, first of all. The fact that there is a limit on what we're able to produce. The line itself is indicative of scarcity, finite resources that satisfy infinite wants. It's also an illustration of opportunity cost, that in order to produce one thing, we have to give up producing something else if we're already on the line at maximum efficiency. So we can only produce so much stuff. Okay, so it's illustrating both these concepts for us. Now, what else it can show is, remember this point out here I said is impossible? Well, I said it was currently impossible. Could we hit that point of production at some point in the future? Sure. All right, so if there's a limit on what we can produce because we only have so much land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, what if we had more of any of those? What if we had more natural resources, more factories, more workers? Well, what's going to happen at that point is... okay. The curve can expand outwards. All right, maybe it'll expand... all the way outward so that it will now encompass that point that we had previously. So that point that previously was impossible is now within the realm of possibility. Okay, we have more resources, so that means that we can produce more stuff. Another option is, well, what if we increase efficiency? So we don't have more resources. Instead, what we have is we're getting more out of what we already have. One of the examples I like to present is water bottles, right? Especially those ones that crackle a lot when you crunch them. Okay. If you compare water bottles now to water bottles, say, 20, 30 years ago, the plastic is thinner in the water bottles now. And the reason is we have new manufacturing techniques, which means we can produce same bottles using less plastic in each bottle. So what does that mean? Well, it means we can produce more bottles, or we can produce more of plastic stuff in general because we're not putting as much plastic in each bottle. So we've increased efficiency. And increased efficiency means we can produce more stuff. All right, whatever it is that happens to be, and our curve would expand outwards. It could also contract inwards. Let's say there's a... I used to use plague as an example of this, or some sort of horrible pandemic, but that's a little bit awkward now. Let's say that the war that we started off on that produced a lot of military goods, let's say that it's going badly, and it's on the home turf in your own country, and so factories are being destroyed, people are going off to war, which means they're not part of the labor force, and then they're getting killed. Well, what would happen is that the production possibilities curve in that case could contract inwards. So we are not able to produce as much stuff as what we were before, right? Fewer guns and less consumer goods as a result. Okay. Now, all this stuff, let me see if I can make it disappear here. Oh, it wants me to upgrade my plan. Let's just say I erase all this. Okay. That's not erasing. There we go. What all this means is that where you fall in the production possibilities curve can also change a great deal over time. That you could be at one point and then at different points later on. So let's say that in times of peace you're going to produce more consumer goods, but in times of war you move towards the military goods. And and it all goes from there. Let me finish erasing this stuff. Oh, I don't even know if I can erase these stupid words. There we are. Delete. And now I just have these weird boxes that are sitting around. Fantastic. Just shove those way off to the side. Alright, so we bring back our original graph here, which is now super large. Okay, so let's say we're looking like that. This is our point of production right here. Let's say we have guns or butter again. This thing has gotten excessively large, but let's say we've got the guns still, the military goods on the y-axis, and the butter on the x-axis. So let's say this is where we were in 1927. All right, so the economy is booming. Things are good. This is before the Great Depression and before World War II. Let's say the the Great Depression happened. So let's say we fast forward to 1931. Well, in 1931, we would be right in here. Okay, so the Great Depression is on. We're massively underproducing what we could. Now let's say we go to 1944. In that case, we'd be way up here, heavily favoring the guns, right? Heavily favoring the military goods. And then in 47, we'd be down around here. So much further towards consumer goods than what we were before. All right. So where you fall in a graph like this can change over time, right? But the entire point is this shows the combination of possibilities of what it is you can produce as a society. You could have a production possibilities curve for you personally, showing the limitations on what it is you are able to produce. Okay, so maybe you can make TikTok videos, or you can... I don't know, let's say wash dishes. Well, if you're making the TikTok videos, that means you're not washing dishes. Okay, and vice versa. So this is showing your own possibilities as well as a nation's possibilities. Okay, but this is the general concept of it very quickly.